And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happenstance into the Truth Bomb Riff. My name is Patrick Lovell, and I'm joined by my colleague and co-host.
Roseanne Raviola Mele.
And we're recording this on the afternoon of Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And a lot going on, Roseanne, as always. We're doing this a little bit impromptu because I've got stuff to do this afternoon and you've got stuff to do. So thank you for being flexible to go ahead and record this right now. But I want to start this conversation off with just something that I had heard to kind of frame, what I think is going to be the gist of our conversation by way of my article that I laid out on Twitter today or on X. But what I had just heard, and I think this is something we both have to maybe try to lead in with, is that there's a lot of, I don't know, vexation, questioning, uh, curiosity, this, that, or the other, in the mid-time mainstream media circus, whether or not there's going to be a second debate between Trump and Vice President Harris. And the way I respond to that, first and foremost, is that for anybody who saw the first debate with Joe Biden and Donald Trump and didn't automatically come to understand that Joe Biden was old and not really the best candidate to unfortunately take down what most of us recognize as an existential threat. Now that we have a very intelligent, technocratic, professional female of color candidate who can obviously stand her ground with Trump and demonstrated so the first go around, there's nothing that Trump brings to the table by way of debate issues. All it is a reason for mainstream media to stay relevant, to get advertising revenue baked into this whole fiasco of drama that you'd have to be a complete idiot not to know that Donald Trump is a criminal, that Donald Trump should never be running for the office of the presidency, let alone after the fact he's been convicted of 34 felonies, not to mention everything that that came before. But I mean, literally, the level of broadcast material from mainstream media and then everything that we're seeing in social media is on par with people who have less than a seventh grade education about the world. They know nothing. They don't understand our system. They don't understand the law. They don't understand who the candidates are. They don't understand the economy. They don't understand reality. And all of this is a three-ring circus to perpetuate what is ultimately this dance to prevent everybody from understanding what we continue to bring to the world.
And as you're saying that, it brings me right to a place where I have been at many, countless times. So somebody comes to me. They want help with this, that, or the other thing, whether it be how to get Medicaid in Nevada, how to get food, how to find a food bank, all these things, they're coming to me for answers. So very calmly and quietly, I say to them, here are the answers. You can go here, 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 and here. You can do this depending on what your problem is. I've got answers for you. I have worked for not only 30 years here, but since 1965, finding answers. So I got the answers. You're coming to me.
Answers and pathways to solutions.
That's right. Absolutely. So here I am.
Very pragmatic.
Giving this to people for free, no charge. And here's my phone number. If you need anything, call me. Do you want me to help you? Here, I'm right here. You see that? I'm right here.
I love that, and it's also what it kind of expounds upon kind of my perception of you as nurse, Mother Teresa, Florence Nightingale, whatever the the metaphor is, because you're providing people in desperation triage. Which is very important for what we're in the midst of, obviously, right? You're finding pathways to solutions that can literally, in many of these cases, save their lives.
So, but what happens? I'm going to tell you 99 times out of 100, they say, that's okay. You don't have to do that. I'll go talk to my girlfriend, or my sister-in-law told me this, and it's like, what the hell is wrong with people? What
Wow.
is wrong?
They're
What?
in desperation, but they won't accept somebody trying to guide them to the solutions that they desperately need.
And that is
That's interesting.
just okay. When you did that article this morning,
Set it up a little bit. Tell us what
right?
article we're
Okay,
talking about.
but this is how I got to tell the audience. Patrick and I live hundreds of miles away from each other. We've seen each other. He remembers another time, but I remember only meeting him
In person.
just a couple of weeks ago. Okay,
Right.
in person. But what we have, the truth, the facts, is not just what we think. This is not our opinion. This is not us bloviating. This is years and people with put us all together. We got hundreds of years, centuries of experience. You put together, first of all, in the con, the truth bombs we do, all the material. Now it's all in one place
And your shirt.
in the Clean New Deal. Okay.
Don't forget your shirt.
Oh, wait, ready?
Yep. That's the other one. That's how you and I met.
This, this gave me the opportunity to meet these new untouchables. I got into their head in 19 episodes because I did all the transcripts. Okay. And now I'm good friends with all these people. But look, all of us, Patrick, me, Richard Bowen, Bill Black, Tom Murphy, Michael Winston, Jeff Thigpen, John O'Brien, Paul Pelletier, Chris Swecker, Prentice Cox, all these people are giving you the truth, and it's for free. And why are you sitting on your fat butt doing craziness?
All
Why
right,
you
so
tell them about craziness?
thank you for that, and I appreciate that. But so the people that she had mentioned are heroes within our system that were at the highest levels for the most part of all of these different pieces of the puzzle that were telling the world that there was a massive, massive racketeering effort in play by our financial system that was destroying tens of millions of Americans. And these people were at the highest levels of our institutions that are tasked with making sure that this doesn't happen. Now, in the news today, and what was really the premise of my article that Roseanne just prefaced that I laid down on X not too long ago, but it's definitely something that I would encourage everybody to read and share and use as hopefully the causeway into our work, because everything that matters is happening all around us now. Now, that's true of any given time in our life and our history, because there's no more important time than the present moment, quite frankly. not to, given really where we came from and where we hope to go. I mean, this is just the nature of life. But there are some amazing things that are taking shape in front of our eyes that make it impossible for you not to understand what it is that we are revealing to you, because the system is spending billions of dollars to legitimize everything that I'm telling you. Now, let me start first with the story of P. Diddy. P. Diddy is in prison, or jail, locked up without bail in Brooklyn. And this guy has lived in, the high life for several decades, and was a very world known, world. I was about to say world renowned, but I mean the guy is well known in celebrity and culture and music and this and that and the other. But he is obviously has been arrested on racketeering charges of interstate movement of prostitution and all sorts of scenarios involving sex trafficking and prostitution and drug use and other things that are illegal, among other things. And some of the salacious stuff that we've heard are about the baby oils, found in his palaces in Los Angeles and in Miami. But some of the testimony, for example, I think it was Lil John, or Little Rod saying things like, "Hey, I was roofied one night, and I'm in this like thing that they call a freak off, and I am just losing my mind, and I'm in this kind of orgy setting, and all of a sudden I blank out." And then I wake, but when I'm about to pass out, I remember somebody's hand on my ass, and then I pass out, and I wake up later to see P Diddy just completely raping some chick next to me, or just having mad sex with her. And P Diddy looks over to me and says, "That's what I did to you." He roofied and raped Lil Rod and other people, and this has been going on for now decades. Okay, people had been revealing these sorts of stories going back to the early 2000s that I'm aware of, and I know that we heard about rumors about this stuff in the late 90s, right, mid 90s, early 90s, or late 90s. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, if there were whistleblowers and people saying, that things were happening, why weren't there investigations that would lead to indictments that would ultimately lead to prosecutions and guys that are running massively insane, criminal, perverted sexual enterprises taken down? Well, the same question goes for Epstein and all things Epstein. The same thing goes for Weinstein and Weinstein's situation that was slightly different, but it was a rape circus. It was a systemic conspiracy to rape up and coming actresses who were obviously wanting to get to the top and who were very, very talented. That Harvey Weinstein, the executive producer for Miramax and the Weinstein Company, which I've said many times is probably my favorite production company by way of the films they put out. But what was happening behind the scenes is the business model that's existed in Hollywood literally from the very beginning of Hollywood, otherwise known as the casting couch. And I worked in Hollywood, and I'm very familiar with a lot of the stuff, not from this situation I just described with Lil Rod, because I had the wherewithal to never participate in that stuff. And I had the free will and the choice not to actually sell my soul in a Faustian bargain to try to get ahead. Maybe in retrospect, that was a mistake. I kid when I say that. But the bottom line is that people always have choices to make. And in this
Exactly.
situation with power and corruption and collusion and complicity and duplicity, people are always making a Faustian bargain. And the power that works with asymmetric information and tricks that you're not aware of, they always have the cards. They always have the upper hand. So it's always a surprise to people that get involved with this stuff. They want to be near a celebrity, or they want to, rise to the top, and they want to be a celebrity themselves. They're always surprised when they get roofied and raped. I'm always kind of like, what, really? No, you weren't. Come on. You knew what was going on. In some cases, they didn't, but that does not, regardless of what your personal perception is and what your judgment on someone's, judgment matter. So, for example, that is not something that is the law. You can have your perception about things all day long, but you cannot set people up in gang rape scenarios where you roofie them and rape them in a systemic cross-state racketeering enterprise with prostitution, because that's against the law. And if you're indicted, you go to prison. That's the law. If you're Harvey Weinstein and you get caught of rape, and DAs across in LA and New York decide, hey, we've got enough evidence where we're going to pursue an investigation that leads to an indictment that we put in front of a jury of Harvey's peers. And if he gets convicted, guess where he winds up? In prison. That's called the law. That's what the United States was created to do. But yet, over and over and over, when it comes to power, and people above the line is what I call it, because that's the movie business. When you're, a top level producer, director, writer, actor, if that, anybody above the line is a lot of the times untouchable. And what I mean by above the line in all of these scenarios are those with the most money and control. And so I could go on and on and on, but the thesis of this article that I set forth today was that, okay, in light of Israel attacking Lebanon and everything that is involved with, both in the real world and geopolitics and all sorts of dangerous calamity that could come through that at a time where we're having this election, which seems oddly timed when you understand Netanyahu's relationship with Trump, for example. And I keep saying to people that, as insane as all of these other elements like Trump selling sneakers or Bibles or crypto or whatever else, which is all just this is insane facade, and this other stuff, and crypto's a little bit more intrinsic, but it's a carnival, right? But at the same time, while Trump was in office, he may have looted $1.5 billion. He got into office with illegal donations from the likes of the Egyptians for $10 million that basically the Department of Justice wiped its hands of because there was no investigation. And then, in addition to all of that, the 5,000 plus lies and the impeachment that didn't go anywhere because all of the Republicans were on the side of the lying, thieving, treasonous bastard that backdoored into the presidency illegally to begin with. And we all have this evidence, right, at this stage of the game. But there were no prosecutions. But then we end up a little too late. And I'll turn it over to you, Roseanne, but I want to finish with this. Because as we go into this final lap of the election cycle, right, that we've seen that Trump has been indicted 91 times, convicted 34 times for felonies, for the sum total of deceptive acts and practices, defrauding the United States, using falsification of business records, and racketeering to basically lie, steal, and cheat his way to power and to steal the whole time. Okay, that's Donald freaking Trump, that has 70 million people plus that are wearing MAGA hats that may as well be the same people that wound up at Puff Diddy's parties where they were rubbing the lotion and bending down to the throne of deception, which is, the king of darkness sort of thing, in this whole analogy. And same with, Harvey Weinstein's people. Do you think they get a pass and they can go to get absolution, because they basically just, kept their mouths shut and partook and were yes men the whole time to go along, to get along? Complicity is evil. And it is not something that is not part of the racketeering enterprise. If you do the indictment and you flip and flip and flip and find out who the crime bosses are, it's not rocket science, it's racketeering. And the final thing that I'll say on this note, and I'll let you take us home, is the notion that, guys, it is freakish. Okay, I'm not a religious guy. I like to use religious connotations and metaphors and so forth.
They fit.
Because they fit, because Mark Twain said that, if history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. But humanity always does the same thing over and over and over throughout history, because there's only so many different ways we react to under different circumstances. And that's why we've had for centuries and a millennium in Europe where tyranny reigned supreme, these perversions of power. That's why we had the American Revolution. That's why we have separation of powers. That's why we have the law and integrity of the law. The only way it can work, just like a plane has to overcome weight and drag with the force of thrust to soar, all of these systems have to work in unison. And if you have the law, you have to have people with integrity, learned professionals with integrity that can actually execute the law on behalf of a government of, by, and for the people. And is that what we have, Roseanne, at the end of the world?
We don't have it. The law has no integrity. People have gone mad. The world is on ludicrous speed on steroids. And as I got up this morning, the first thing I texted to Patrick after I saw something on Twitter was, here's where my mind went today: power, peace, and propaganda. Okay. Now, I want you to think about those three words: power, peace, and propaganda. Now, I want everybody to go to thecon.tv. And if you don't have the time to watch all of it, I want you to go right with thinking about power, peace, and propaganda. I want you to watch episode 4. In episode 4, it shows you, anybody who's got, if I only get a brain. Yeah, you got a brain, so fucking use it, okay? You go, you watch episode 4. You see, right at the very beginning, when Pastor Harrison and Patrick are talking, and what happens when the law doesn't work? Who takes over? The criminals take over. Okay. Keep thinking now. Power, peace, and propaganda. You watch the episode, thecon.tv, episode 4. You will see what people in power had the ability to do to subvert the law. They didn't have to give any excuses. They just frickin' did it. They did it. You wrap your head around that. You wrap your head around that, and you will see what a handful of people did to subvert the law. And what do they sell it as? Fucking propaganda. Propaganda. Oh, they're smart. They know what to do. Bullshit. Okay, that's bullshit. Now, again, power, peace, propaganda. You go to Twitter, you go right away at Patrick Lovell 1. I want you to see how he lays all the material out. He's not pulling this out of his ass. He knows what he's talking about. He's done the work. He doesn't just say, listen, if he says something that he hasn't done a deep dive on, he'll tell you. He's the first one to tell you. The first one. He doesn't just make up shit. All right? He's old enough, smart enough, and he's got the right heart and head to give you what you need, because he ain't getting rich off of doing what we're doing, nor am I. And every single day, I think about what could happen to me if BlackRock takes my pension and goes playing around with it. Then Roseanne has a $486 of Social Security to live on. I own my unit, but I don't own the land. I'm out on my little butt. Okay, I'm out. But you know what? I don't give a damn because I know how to live on the street. I've been out there. I see it. I know what to do. I know what people want, what people need, and what people deserve. Okay? So that's where I'm going to stop for now because I got to drink some coffee. All right.
Look,
And I'm going to,
I really appreciate that, but and I really love the heart and soul and everything else that you opened up with. I mean, what the people have to understand is that, and like Roseanne encouraged you to go check out the con at www.thecon.tv. People, I can assure you that it is the one television series, documented investigative television series, that the entire system of power that I'm revealing to you had to quash because it is perfection in its execution. Because we were so fortunate to have the budget to spend $4.5 million to crisscross this country with a lot of hard work and thousands of hours that took me years and years and years to accomplish with some very, very smart people to find the right people. We didn't find mid level players. We didn't find people who didn't have the evidence. In every case, we went to the guys at the apex of the Department of Justice, the head of the criminal division, of at the apex of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, at the apex of white collar investigations, at the top of the SEC, AGs around the country, and then a bunch of luck that dropped into our lap because of the great guys that we found in Northeast Ohio who had the right stuff to find the only racketeering conviction. We found the only racketeering conviction that they carried out for this global conspiracy that was by 2008 ish over $800 trillion in derivatives trade, all predicated by what we show you in our story. However, I will also encourage you that you have to go to, as soon as possible, our website at www.thecleannewdeal.org. Fortunately, and it's a miracle in its own right, after all of this effort of what Roseanne said that we put together both on YouTube and our podcast and the New Untouchables and everything else, but I've had all of this information both in my head and on my computer and other elements, and as well as the pathway, the pathology, the truth to get you through this incredibly dark forest and tapestry of lies that are overwhelming by a system of billionaires that have gotten tens of trillions of dollars illegally for free behind in the closed, sorry, in the shadow corridors of power, behind closed doors in the offices that nobody knows exists. And we know exactly how they exist and what they did, how and why, to be able to provide tens of trillions of dollars to these people that are puppeteering us and completely betraying us all. So on that website, if you follow and read and watch and see everything, which I know only a very few amount of you are going to do, maybe a handful of you will be sold. Maybe a majority of you will check in and go, it's pretty, this and that, but I don't read. I need to go look at my Twitter feed or my TikTok feed, and I need to see the next thing that makes me more stupid than the day before. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing in this world, but yet I want everybody to listen to me like I do, like I know what I'm talking about. No, a majority of people in the United States and around the world do not have a fucking clue what they're talking about. They don't know what world they live in. They don't know what's going on until, of course, they see things like P. Diddy and they say after the fact, oh, yeah, everybody knew it. Or Epstein, oh, yeah, everybody knew it. Or, Weinstein, and after the fact, everybody knew it. Okay. So what does that mean? That means either you're in on it and you're lying to everybody, or you're not in it and you're buying lies. Okay. That's the situation. Who are you in that configuration? Are you somebody that is like a sheep being led to slaughter? Or do you have any internal strength? Are you a cowboy? Are you a wolf? Are you anything that has power to where you're not the one that's going to be expendable? That you can have power in your hands if you understand who does what, when, and how. And so you have the free will to make the choice. Because again, what was on my mind this morning is literally the notion of Armageddon, which comes from the Old Testament, the end of the world narrative of the God and the devil, but it's not really God. It's good and evil playing at that time in the Old Testament, to where the army of the wicked will be suppressed, and then the Messiah will come. The interpretation for the rapture is the second coming of Christ, and again, it's all about good destroying evil, but it's the wicked who are evil. But if you look around, a majority are evil. They are the wicked. Everybody is partaking in the lie of one form or another. And everybody is either in on it and they're hiding it from you, or you're getting set up and you play along and you don't care, which means you don't care about law and order, which means you don't care about freedom, which means you don't care about liberty and justice for all, which means you don't believe in integrity. And I've known my whole life, when you go back to like all of the unbelievable innovations that have come from the scientists and those that have made exploration possible and the courageous people of the world that pushed the entirety of mankind forward, a vast majority of the people were always pulling back. And the analogy for me is like it takes the universal construct. The truth is light overcomes darkness with energy, with power through the supernova. That's just the nature of how the universe works, from the singularity to the Big Bang to everything else, where light overcomes darkness. But there's always a tension between light and dark. And that's the story of our lives. That's the story of our souls. So if your soul's going to be redeemed, and if you believe that God is all knowing, do you think you can lie to God? No, you can't if that exists. So stop lying to yourself. My whole point is that when you live in truth, you live in light. When you lie, inside you're depraved. When you have the truth, you're bulletproof. When you lie, inside you die. Stop buying lies. Stop buying lies and stop lying. Become a nuclear reaction vector for the truth. Because, look, we all know, this is my final thing, Roseanne. Everybody knows that the New York Times and mainstream media have been getting it wrong for a long time, and they have been failing incredibly, which gave birth to the economy of lies, whether it's Fox News or, quite frankly, all things X. It's the economy of lies. What Roseanne and I represent and what we put together, and we're literally two tiny people in comparison to this system. But we're the ones who've got the truth that can take it all down if tens of millions of you, quite frankly, accept it. And I find it ironic that the world could be coming to an end, because the best thing about the end is the beginning. It's the transformation. And you know what? We can just let all the evil and the darkness in the world and the decayed, rotting carcass of the American dream disappear, because we can redeem the dream to create a renaissance of possibility, my friends, but only if you accept the truth. How crazy does that sound? I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to go find it for yourself. We just put it there. It's all there. It's all the facts. It's all the evidence. You just have to stop being punked. That's the key consideration. And honestly, that's what it's all about, because this is what I think. Whether it's a Faustian bargain, whether the greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world he didn't exist, because we all know that bad things happen in the shadows. And I also believe if there is a God, he gives you enough rope to hang yourself with, which also happens in the shadows. You can't lie and be depraved and pretend like you're not. You might get away with it for a little while, but you're not going to get away with it forever. And so what we have to do, guys, everything's on the line. The United States can't function as a cancerous, corrupt empire. It will fail. And if you don't know that the MAGAs, everybody associated with Donald Trump and Eric Prince and everybody probably in with Putin and everybody else, which is big money and military industrial and guys that came out of the NSA to create that stupid what was it that Pew and all the rest of these psychology games. If they could get as far as they did with the insurrection the first time, do you not think they have a plan right now? Do you not think they have a plan to railroad everybody? They've already got the Supreme Court. They've already got most of Congress. They've got obviously police shaking hands with Donald Trump, and he's a convicted felon that probably stole $1.5 billion while also having the Saudis get in bed with his former Secretary Treasury of the Treasury and his son-in-law to the tune of $6 billion. And who was Saudi Arabia in context to 9/11? I mean, people, you've got to stop being stupid. The truth is your salvation.
And
Sorry, was that too long?
no, I will tell you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I will tell you. For all of those, and I know you're out there, you think it's hopeless. Everything's lost. I can't do anything. Anybody who knows a lot or a little bit about history, I want them to think about the dark ages in Europe. Okay. From years and years of the dark ages where people were totally under the thumb of those in power who spread propaganda and did anything but keep the peace. What came out of that? What came out of that was the Renaissance.
The Great Enlightenment.
Right? Of truth and beauty and a new kind of life for people. So, my friends, you don't have to be ignorant. You don't have to be stupid. You don't have to have hope to persevere. And that's what we do. Okay. All you do, keep it in your head. Failure is not an option. Our hands are out.
Look, it's all about the discovery, and I'll finish with this, Roseanne. I appreciate what you just said and all of it, and I know I've carried on a little bit, but I mean, my God, it could not be more clear. It could not be
Yeah.
crucial. It could not be more. Just again, it's so black and white what's going on. It's unbelievable. And some people might go, yeah, but it's we're fighting to save democracy.
There's no yeah, but.
If we get Kamala Harris elected, then we can handle all of these questions downstream. No, you can't, because Kamala Harris isn't going to address. She wants to turn the page. She wants to etch a sketch all that is, and what that means is don't ask questions. That's why we have to ask the prescient question to Tim Walz. Did you teach your students that the United States was built and created to prop up billionaires who could get free money illegally, while to be above the law and above market forces, so that they could betray the people of the United States? My God, people, my God, if you think that that's okay, you're insane. And all of you who continue to follow the liar in chief, Trump, the Chump stain, I mean, you're the MAGA zombie apocalypse. I don't think you can be reformed. I do know that there are a lot of elderly people that came out of the Tea Party that had their pensions blown up because of the great financial crisis, that are so sickened by the Democratic Party and globalism and everything else that they don't care. That they're like, you know what? It's all just a hornet's nest of lies and deception that destroyed my life. So I'm going to go hang out with my tribe. I'll go to church. I'll wear my red MAGA hat and I'll salute the flag, and I'll provide, screw it. It's better than anything that I've just come through. And you might say to yourself, yeah, you know what? They got a point, right? The younger people don't. I'll tell you that. You didn't spend 4 or 5 decades working your ass off to have your pensions blown up. And if you did, you should be asking the questions, why did that happen? And then if you found out who they were, you should not allow that to happen, which is what we're revealing to you. We're revealing to you the biggest heist in history, $71 trillion to date. And ultimately, the 4 questions, and I'm going to finish off with this because you can read it, but this is what it comes down to on the website. Look, you got to understand qualified immunity. You got to understand the electoral college, presidential immunity, and then the illegal use of Federal Reserve Act 13.3. All of that means is that we have a shadow power, that the power is actually above the law and above market forces and above whatever you think you can do at the polls. Okay. It's called corruption. It's a facade. It's a lie. It's a deprivation. It's the biggest lie probably in the history of the world, minus what the Nazis pulled off and everything else. But in terms of numbers, this is actually bigger in terms of day-to-day routine, in terms of fraud and all of the stuff that's going on in the business hive matrix of this whole thing. So the only way we can get a country back of, for, and by the people is if we, the people, understand how our system works to be able to create a new scaffolding and structure by which the system has the power to regulate itself, okay, on behalf of for and by the people. So you have to have a new Glass-Steagall, which separates commercial banking from investment banking. So these huge, too big to fail, systemically important apparatuses can't gamble with other people's money to destroy the world and then get free money by doing it. That's absolutely insane, but that's reality. Then we got to get rid of
Citizens United.
Citizens United. Citizens United is dark money. What did I just say earlier about what happens in the shadows? Nothing good. It's corruption. It's these guys that are getting free money who have absolute control, that are above the law and market forces, paying for the pimps, whores, junkies, and maggots that are in our government to be able to basically lie to you. That's not a government of by and for the people. I think a lot of you would accept that and probably know that, but a lot more need to wrap their heads around that. The third precept of the Clean New Deal is that we've got to show our country that $71 trillion was looted over the course of 3 administrations, started with Obama, went into Trump's administration, also into Biden's administration, and they're all using the Federal Reserve Act 13.3 illegally to basically backdoor Congress. That's what it comes down to. The separation of powers in the House of the people is not relevant. If they can get money behind the scenes to criminal apparatuses, they don't need anything else, especially if they're above the law, which is what we're dealing with. And are there better ways to spend $71 trillion than to about 100,000 people in forever wars and all of this stuff that's leading to, the climate crisis and other elements that have destroyed everything we think we are? Of course there is. They've smashed and grabbed us. It's time to smash and grab the power back. And this is how we do it, because you've got to, and then these are the final 3 points. You've got to end qualified immunity for the police, presidential immunity for corruption, and quite frankly, judicial immunity. Nobody in the United States should be above the law under any situation, ever, because that's what then allows the shadow sector of the depraved to be able to use and rule with corruption through deception and psychology. And if you don't have all the information, you're powerless. And what we're informing you and equipping with you is the power of the truth based on the evidence. Because once you get rid of all of those guys, then we've got to break up the electoral college finally. Because what they're doing again right now is they're going to use the electoral college to steal the election for Trump, just like they tried to do in 22 through deceptive acts and practices and forgery and everything else. Guys, it's all a con. That's it. It's just a con. It's just people with money, power, and then a bunch of freaking cockroach idiots that will play their game because they have no soul. I guess that's cool at the time Armageddon comes, because you know where they're going to go for eternal damnation, right?
Yeah. And people, my last word is, when you have the truth, you are bulletproof.
And by the way, our swag at www.thecleannewdeal.org is your armor to penetrate the MAGA zombie apocalypse. Guys, we've got incredible shirts, neckerchiefs for dogs. We've got, cases for your phone. We've got incredible stuff. And why do you want to purchase it? to show your power that you're not a stupid idiot. That's why. Does it cost a little bit of money? Yeah, we had to put it together, you know? Quit buying lies. How about that for once? Can you make the truth valuable for once? I mean, that's what we've got to do is create the truth economy, quite frankly, because it's descended into chaos and madness and Dante's 9 levels of hell. So anyway, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. If you want to debate me, hey, I'll go on, a Zoom call with you anytime. I'll talk to economists. I'll talk to professionals. How about this? Shove me in front of Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow is one of the ones that is somebody who has millions of dollars of capacity, and she's very smart in her own right, and she's got incredible resources, and she tells specific stories that aren't this. Why? Because it's called the revolving door. Look, guys, the corruption of the Obama administration, quite frankly, and he didn't start this corruption, but he let him get away with it. That's what enabled MAGA. And MAGA was just a continuation of John Birch through, America First and all of those things and Jim Crow that would then ultimately become, white power. And then we would see more organized in the Americans for Prosperity that then became MAGA. It's a continuation. It's always been there. Okay. Everything you're in the midst of has always happened before. The question is what do you have inside yourself to save your country that you say you love for? Do you believe in the democracy? Do you believe in free markets? Do you believe in opportunity for all, liberty and justice for all? Okay, prove it. Wrap your head around the truth. Did I care?